Hello, good evening, and welcome to Talking
Hang on,
Dogs
hang
on
on,
the
hang on,
What?
hang on, hang on. Back in your box call. It's my turn.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
back, baby. I'm back.
all right, all right. I was just giving the people what they wanted, Ian.
Yeah, the people. I tell you what, when you see that shirt, they realize I think they'll be more than glad to see me back now, to be honest, in my plain tee, as always. Barry Call, welcome to Talking Dogs on a Tuesday, because it was, of course, a bank holiday yesterday. I hope you didn't get up to too much mischief. Were you in Ferry House, perchance?
No, I was working the day job for Betdac, working till all of 10 o'clock last night. But it looked like a massive, massive crowd there yesterday at Fairy House, and good race as well, good racing there. So look, I was glad they got the last 2 days off after the cancellation on Friday. Yeah, good crowd, good stuff, good to see.
You were a busy man over the weekend. Of course, you were on duty at Shelbourne Park. Yours truly was luckily down at Limerick to watch the final of the Kirby Memorial. Plenty to lament on. We've got a great weekend to look back on.
Yeah, look, great action both sides of the Irish Sea. Huge, big sporting weekend as well. Apart from the football last night that we won't mention, but yeah, great sports, great racing over in Toaster as well. Great racing at Limerick, great racing at Shelbourne Park, and a big race down in Waterford as well. So plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, our beloved Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur are destined to meet in Europe. I think Barry will say nothing. We mightn't be talking terms that week.
We're playing for the bronze medal playoff. I'd say if we're lucky.
Right, let's get into it. Limerick on Saturday night, huge crowd, Barry, as you would expect. The GA clubs came in their droves, a big dog eat crowd, and a great final. It was pretty miserable up to about 8 o'clock, and the weather gods just decided, let's give these a break. And it came right for the final of the Kirby Memorial. It's been a wonderful competition. And I think it's safe to say, Barry, it was probably the right winner on Saturday night. Faypoint Ranger, a greyhound who's always had a lofty reputation, even prior to his debut. Ran so well through the Clonmel stake, of course, fluffed his lines in the final. But there was no fluffing of his lines during the Kirby. Went unbeaten through it. And I think this fellow is very much in the same sort of guise as Graham Holland's two previous winners, of course, Swords Rex and Clonbrine Treaty. And that is saying something because they are two of the modern greats.
Yeah, look, Ian, as you say, he was a most deserving winner. Went through the competition unbeaten for Graham Holland again. He's a great record now in this competition. And the competition's not going that long, as we all know. It's only gone, what is it gone? Maybe 13, 15 years or something like that. So he's a great record in it. And it's interesting you mentioned Swords Rex and Clonbrine Treaty. Look, we all know what they went on to do. Swords Rex, he really should have been an English Derby champion, shouldn't he? And Clonbrine Treaty, a four-time classic winner. And this dog has sort of taken the very, very same path as Swords Rex. He started off in the unraced race down in Clonmel, the Rural Kennels unraced. Swords Rex won that. Faypoint Ranger was a little bit unlucky in the final. Swords Rex then had one run in Shelbourne Park, whereas Faypoint Ranger didn't. He went straight to the Kirby. Rex went to the Kirby straight after that race in Shelbourne and went on to win it, as too was Faypoint Ranger. Look, he broke well in the final. He needed to. He did need to, because when you look back at the replay, I think Sol Mio missed the break a bit and went up very, very strongly. The two outside runners lost a chance at the trap, whereas as too did Bubbly Charger. But look, he came out well. He showed good early pace to the bend. And once he got around in front, he was never going to be caught. There was a little doubt in your mind maybe last week that he'd done that huge, huge run, would have taken a bit out of him or left his mark on him. But no, it didn't seem to. 28.05. I wouldn't say the track was flying down there. You say the weather wasn't great. But look, as I say, what a dog he is to look forward to. It's huge for his sire as well, Coolavani Hoffa, only a very, very young sire, to get to 1-2 in the Kirby. But yeah, Faypoint Ranger, look, the world is at his feet again. I'm sure they probably will go to the produce stakes in Clonmel and follow that Swords Rex route, because they done okay with Swords Rex, and if this fella can follow in his footsteps, the future is bright.
Yeah, funny enough, you mentioned that Swords Rex and Clonbrine Treaty both went to the final of the Produce Stakes, both red hot favourites, both turned over. It's a big ask. You know, obviously they all each of the three had the similar path through their own race stake into the Kirby and then onto the Produce Stakes. I just got the sense from Graham the other night that he's very much sort of open to not running this dog or running him, depending on the dog himself. I think very much the Derby is the plan with him. You just got that sense from him. That's the sort of greyhound he thinks he is. You can only improve for the longer run to the corner, I would suspect, over 550 yards. He certainly wasn't stopping at the line. He's getting stronger and stronger with each run. So whether he turns up at the Produce Stakes or not, listen, he'd be a great draw if he did turn up at Clonmel. If he doesn't, I wouldn't be too concerned. I think they have the right targets in mind for him. Looking back at the race, um, he was the right dog at the right time. But in a few months' time, we might be looking back and going, God, when you think Faypoint Ranger was 4-6 and Solomio was 8-1, Next week in the same draw, I'm not sure I wouldn't have been back in Solomeo. Just take a chance that he might break that half a length faster because I thought he made up a little bit of ground on Faypoint Ranger into the opening corner, forced a check off and lost a lot of ground. He's only beaten 4.5 lengths, and there was a lot of talk about this dog. Our great pal Damo was telling us that there was good money for Solomeo throughout the competition, and prior to the start, backed him anti-post. They backed him during the rounds. So a lot of people thinking well of this dog. He didn't win a heat of the competition, but showed loads of promise. And it is notable that his best run certainly came in the final. Like he does 28:36. Um, he loses 3-4 lengths at the first corner. I just wouldn't be surprised if Solomeo turns into a bit of a star. Obviously we referenced that many's a time he's a half brother to the artist formerly known as Kildare. I think he's a similar enough profile, and this fellow could rock up at the English Derby. Like that's something Peter Cronin has done before with these Kirby dogs. Like he got to a final with Croker's Champ. Went to he finished second with Croker's Champ in the Kirby. Went close in the Derby in England. Kildare, obviously enough we spoke of, finished second in the English Derby, having finished third in this. So, I just wouldn't be surprised if he rocked up at Toaster and played a big part in proceedings because I think he's very much on an upward curve.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about where these dogs are going to go. And just touching on Soul Mio, I did say at the start of the program that Faith Point Ranger he broke well and he needed it, and the reason he needed it was because of the early pace that Soul Mio showed up was inside. I didn't quite think he had that sort of early pace, but I think after the break he might have took a length out of Faith Point Ranger going into the bend. And look, this is one of those sort of strange Kirbys that every year in the Kirby you'd always have a dog that you'd say, well, he has the 400 at Dundalk earmarked at him. And I don't think there was that brute early pace in the competition. Now, they're still doing the first split to the third bend, but I don't think you have that brute early pace, apart from maybe Stone Park Brown we've seen in the opening round. I might touch on him a little bit later on. But yeah, Sol Mio, look, a lot of these dogs I think will be better over 550. I think 550 are written all over them, maybe Skywalker Shard even a little bit further. But as regards where do they go now, Ian? Yeah, Faith Point Ranger, Clonmel, look, it might be a little bit too tight for him. I know he's got good form around there, bar in the final, but yeah, I think 550, maybe the Shelbourne Champion 550 is a good pathway towards the Derby. And again, that competition is confined to January 23s as well, so he'll be still running in sort of puppyish competition. You did mention it there. They did go straight to Toaster with Kildare, Mr. Chelm, so they might just do it again. Sol Mio, Bubbly Charger, obviously he has English interest, so and he's got a bit of experience as well. I think he's got 12, maybe 13 races, Bubbly Charger. So you wouldn't be surprised to see him rock up over there.
I think Damien already told Jim Cremin. I think it might have been included in yesterday's racing post that both dogs will be given a trial round Toaster. So I think
very good.
that says what it
and
needs to say.
yeah, and then Druppy's deploy. We've already known he can travel without any issues. He won the Puppy Derby at Newcastle, but and he's a dog for me that I just feel we've never seen the best of down there. Never seen the best of him down there. He ran well in the feet a couple of nights, showed huge pace. But I wouldn't be giving up on him, although he trailed the field. I still think there's much better to come from him.
Not convinced by his seating.
I just don't think six is the place you want to be in Limerick in those red hot races. But yeah, maybe middle. They seem to break better from the middle down there. I don't think you can seem to get the flashier breaks. But look, all six of them classic greyhounds. I'm sure the future is bright for them all. But yeah, I still think they'd all be sort of suited by 550.
Yeah, the nature of the race and the way it turned out in terms of the favourite did take a flying start from trap four, quickly got the better of Payne Barrier. It is notable that Payne Barrier made his fastest start in the final, like Brendan Matthews, Damien Matthews. They know how to do one. He ran a big race in a sense where he gave himself the best chance to win. He just didn't have the early speed into the corner. He's flanked into the bend, and that's him. The bubbly Charger dog, like he did them proud through the competition. He finished a great third. He's still so lightly raced. Like considering he only made his debut in the opening round, like it's a remarkable feat to finish third in the Kirby, having been a racing debutant coming into the opening round. And the others never really got a chance to get involved. It was one of those races where they were pretty spread out from early. So you sort of, as a bare line of form for those in behind, you can sort of nearly put a pen through it. They just never got a chance to get involved. But I agree with you. I think they're a very talented bunch. I think we'll see much more of them, and mostly over 550 yards and even further with some of them. I think you're right. There wasn't what you'd call the searing early pacer through the competition. Probably the closest we had to it was the dog that went out and you referenced there, Stone Park Brown. But I suppose Faypoint Ranger is probably in that mold a bit, and I think Solomio in time will be like that as well. You also mentioned Coulivan Hoffa. A great start for him. Great start for him. We'd seen plenty of his pups hitting the ground, but these are probably the two standouts thus far. And it's not a bad standard to be setting, I can tell you that. Great racing down at Limerick on Saturday night, and it was great to see JP McManus there. But you know what? We have to give a mention to Chris and Patricia Flanagan, Barry. Like we're around greyhounds a long time, and the Faypoint name has always been there. I seem to remember them having I think they had a Derby finalist at one point. They've had some really good dogs over the years, but I think this is the best of them. Chris Flanagan said in his interview on Saturday night that he's been involved in dogs. He's had dogs 62 years. If anyone deserves to win a big one like that, I think that's it. That sums it up.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, the Faypoint prefix has been around a long, long time. They've a good association there with Graham Holland in the last few years. There's some good Faypoint dogs. Faypoint Harvey was a good dog, looked to be a star at the future. And then a good dog that ran in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, qualified for the semi-final of the 600. His name escapes me,
Point
but it
angry.
is. Yeah, Faypoint Angry. Yeah, he's a good dog. I think he done near 31 seconds, or maybe even went underneath it in a 5.75 win in there a while ago. So yeah, they've had some good dogs. 62 years. If you're knocking around in that game for 62 years, you deserve to win one. But look, it's not a given. Just because you're knocking around 62 years, you're not going to be handed one. So in fairness, they put their money down, and they must spend a few quid on decent dogs. And I'm delighted for them. Yeah, to have a nice one like this Faypoint Ranger. And look, the future is bright for him. Really, really is. There's a great program coming up from, as I say. If they wants to go to produce stakes, they can. If they want to go to the Shelbourne Champion 550, and then you have the Derby, which will be run the summer this year at Shelbourne Park. So, yeah, nice to see them have a nice one, and yeah, good start for Pool of Any Hoffa as well.
Yeah, this fella Graham Holland's not a bad trainer either. That's three Kirbys in the last 4 years.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's doing all right. He's doing all right. I was just looking. I think he has. I think has is he 4,000 winners or something like that? I was just clicking into him last night. 4,000 winners since the record began, or even more. Like so, and his first places are they superseded second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth by
Yeah.
nearly 50%. So he's flying. But just before we finish up on the Kirby, Ian, the standard of the competition. You look at some of the dogs we lost in the first and second round. I seen a dog won down there on Saturday night. Set Wind Wild 80 and 46. I don't think you can make it past the first round. Sheba the one is flying up in the Puppy Oaks in Shelbourne Park. We lost Edward. He's a gold collar winner around Shelbourne Park. Toolmaker Quick was gone. And even a couple of dogs now you might keep an eye on for over further. Derby Stancer won in Shelbourne on Saturday night. A dog at Paul Hennessy's, he didn't show his true colours there on Saturday. Flight Club, I think there's much better to come
Yeah.
from him. And of course, Jack Tavern Boom. All those dogs never made the sort of last 24, and it just shows you how good of a competition.
Yeah, and it looks like Liam Down's going to bring over, maybe two or three of his Kirby dogs over to England. So who's to say they can't make a splash in that competition as well? There will be a few Kirby sort of graduates from this year over in Toaster, and it'll be interesting to see how they go. Obviously, they are giving away an experience advantage, but they're a very talented bunch. No, Faypoint Ranger, a tremendous winner of the Kirby Memorial, and was it Ballybrown? I could be wrong. Is that the name of the GA club? Excuse me. Excuse my ignorance. I interviewed Pat Davern from the club and absolutely delighted with themselves. And by all accounts, I was told that they were one of the best clubs in terms of supporting the competition throughout. So a worthy winner, and they get themselves €10,000, and it goes to obviously it'll go to funding kids and adults and whatnot through the club, and it's a great thing to have, and it does make the competition that little bit more unique, and the atmosphere is very much unique on Kirby Final because of the different crowds that go. You did see a few of the other beaten GA clubs streaming out soon after the final, given the evening in question. And the fact that many were probably off the Thurles the next day to watch Limerick and Tipperary, that's not a surprise. But yeah, it's remarkable the level of sort of atmosphere and uniqueness that this competition has brought up. You brought up one or two fine runs on the undercard at Limerick. Let's just quickly touch on a couple of them that I wanted to mention. Southwind Wild, you're right. The step back to two bends made the difference with him. They may well go back to four bends again in the future and try, but you'd have to say he looks destined for Dundalk. This was a race with the likes of Bourne Racer and Burgess Jack in two really proven top class sprinters, and Southwind Wild. He was sent off the 15-8 second favourite. After 5 strides, that 15-8 was looking mighty, mighty, mighty big.
Yeah, 3.5 lengths the winner, as you mentioned. You mentioned Born Racer, who won the big race at Cork. Was it the Super Sprint at Cork there recently? And
Mm.
Borges Jacks, we all know how quick he is. But yeah, still quite lightly raced out Wayne Wild, 18.46. That's a huge, huge run to win by 3.5 lengths. Yeah, Dundalk looks written all over him, doesn't it? The 400 yards up there.
Those
So
Tinahu Papone, we have to give a quick mention to. He's been like this fellow. He sort of obviously came to our attention last year when he won this competition, but he ran very well during the Laurels as well for John Fox, and he defended his Sean O'Connor Memorial. Obviously, it was a messy enough affair, but he was the outside of 6 wide seeds. It's often where you want to be, Barry. He raced up the outside, cleared his rivals, got to the front, and that was that. Duly obliged at 11-10. Just a good display by a thoroughly professional greyhound.
yeah, he's one of these dogs who's not quite at the top level, but he's mighty, mighty fine. He's maybe 3 or 4 lengths off the very best of them. But yeah, look, I think that's his 13th career win for John Fox. He's knocking on the door of 16, 17,000 euro now in prize money, I think. And yeah, look, as you always say, in six inside seeds, sixes it can almost be the place to be, and it proved again. But look, a thoroughly likable dog, Hope Capone. Delighted for John Fox, as I say, 13 times a race winner, another 5,000 into his coffers, and yeah, he certainly is a type of a dog you'd love to own.
Yeah, I love the stayers, Barry, and there was a hell of a good performance over 6 bends in the first of the staying race. It was a novice 750, and it was won by Born to Perform in what was her first ever start over 6 bends. She posted 41.06 around Limerick. It was utterly dominant. Yes, the Flight Club dog didn't get a chance to get involved. He was stuck out in six and found bother everywhere, basically. But Born to Perform won by 10 lengths. Only Tono Charlie has ever gone faster around Limerick for the 750 yards. Yes, he did it 3 times, but that's okay. If Tono Charlie's the only dog that's ever gone faster than you, you're doing something right. She could have a big, big future over this trip. She is in April 22, like she's gone 3 years of age now, but just looking at her, she has Corn Cucullin written all over. In fact, it was her third birthday on Saturday, and she absolutely know what that's last race date, not a whelp date. Excuse me. No, she won't be 3 until this weekend. But looks an absolute natural for the Corn Cucullin.
I tell you, we're speaking about Graham Holland, not a bad trainer, but it's been some month or so for John Mitchell and Jennifer O'Donnell, absolutely flying. Congratulations to them. And yeah, I was looking back. I seen the result, even though it was a novice 750. Your eye is drawn. How many starts did this bitch have over 750? Her first one, 41.02. But when you look at her form over 4 bends, she was in against the likes of, she had a couple of lines of form behind Bombay Pat. She was in against Droopy's Mandolin, Skip Spitz, what was her name? Sing along or Rat Down Molly when she was running at the top of her game. So she was running against the top dogs over 750 or over 525 and didn't really get loose that often. I think she got loose once maybe and she clocked 28.02. I'm not sure where that was, but she did clock a huge run. And look, once she had a start like that and led 41.06, a massive, massive run, as you say, only Tuono Charlie has gone faster. And it's a great time for her to do that run because, as we know, the big one is coming up, Horncahullen at Shelbourne Park. And look, we're going to touch on the next 750 in a minute, but you love your staying races. And maybe the division was a little bit weak behind Charlie a couple of years ago, but it's really shaping up now. You have this Born to Perform. You have the winner we're going to touch on now, Priceless on ice. You have the bitch that won. She's the bitch that won the Plunket Devlin at 750. You have Eugene Price's bitch, Penny's Colleen. It's shaping up. It looks like it's going to be a cracking competition. A few more in there as well that we'll touch on. But yeah, great performance. Born to Perform. Well named.
Yeah, she had a 28.11 in Clonmel back in January. So, it just goes to show the days of just having a pure stayer are gone. You
Yeah,
need
they're
something that
gone,
can
aren't they?
you
Yeah.
need something that can run over 4 bends. Like
You remember
she won in debut back in December 23 in 28.57. Like so
yeah.
she's always had speed as well as the stamina. So no, it's worth mentioning that. Feshly's Mo was a good trap to line winner. Barefoot and Fire ran very well to beat Toolmaker Giuseppe, who was again a real eye catcher. Toolmaker Giuseppe, a common subject we touch upon. I know Tommy and myself have regularly touched upon it. He just has enough early speed to get himself in trouble. He
Yeah.
flew out, couldn't hold his pitch, got done, and then runs on like a train again. He'd nearly be better off missing the kick some nights and coming through them. He was very close to getting the corner. If it had been 525, he probably would have got the corner, but over 550, Barefoot and Fire got up his inside, and Barefoot and Fire you would expect to head off back to Toaster. He won a Derby trial stake there a couple of weeks ago. The final, of course, we mentioned Balnabola Joe. This is a really exciting prospect for Brendan Murphy and Pat Buckley. He showed it down in Tralee in the Juvenile Classic. He was favourite in the final, had no luck in the final, finishing behind Droopy's Patriot, but knocked over in the first round at Limerick, but back to winning ways after a 28-13 trial at Shelbourne Park, won the other evening in 28-24 at Limerick. A big run from a dog with a very bright future. He's only had, what, 6 starts, and one of them he was knocked over, so he's only had the 5 starts. He looks the part, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Like straight away when he qualified in Enniscorthy in 28-70 odd, you knew, this looks a right type. And yeah, he got a bad enough spill down there, middle of March, I suppose. But he showed as well, being 28-13 around Shelbourne Park, as you say before that. And like he didn't 136. There's room to improve in that section, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looks like a dog. He's very, very strong sort of a dog. 28-24, and yeah, look, another nice one for Brendan, and it was great to see him. As I say, we'll touch on later on Balnabola. Balnabola Jim getting back to something like his best in Shelbourne. But yeah, good weekend for Brendan. I'm sure he's delighted with that winner and delighted with Jim's performance, which we'll touch on a little bit later on.
Yeah, very much so. He's out of Balnabola Ruby, who happens to be a sister to Balnabola Ed. So the pedigree is there. Then you mentioned it there, the synchronized Open 750 went to Prices on Ice. She's doing plenty right, this lady. A much brighter display by Callaway Hybrid in second. He disappointed at Shelbourne. I actually bumped into the Murphys on the way back from Shelbourne Park. I was on the way back from Limerick, and we met somewhere in the middle of Monasterevan. I was gorging myself on a burger in Supermax when I got this belt in the back, and these 2 prop row forwards standing over me. They were delighted with how Callaway Hybrid ran in defeat, but Prices and Ice was very much the star. That's 2 fine displays in a row. She's starting to look like a real stare.
Yeah, she turned much closer than she normally did. I think it was a 5 dog race, wasn't it? She was a little bit more room to operate, and once she was up the inside of Call Me Quick going into the sort of third bend, she was always gonna take some stop. And Callaway Hybrid, it used to be known as Banter Boost. I think he's obviously much better when he's off the front. He did good form over 575 and 600 in Shelbourne Park, and I think he can't come away much better than that. Look, short run to the bend in the 750. We'll see a different Callaway Hybrid if he was to hit the lids and get around that opening bend and set off on his journey. But yeah, Prices on Ice, a really, really strong staying sort. We've seen her come from nearly last to win the Plunkett Devlin 750 at Shelbourne a couple of weeks ago. And it just puts it into perspective, the run of Born to Perform, when you see this lady doing 41-37, because that's as clear as a run as she's got over 750 to do 41-37. And Born to Perform is still a good 4 or 5 lengths ahead of her on the clock.
Yeah, last race there at Limerick was won by Tyra Maliki in 30-32. Good night's racing at Limerick. It is very important on these big nights, Barry, that you put on good supporting races. €2,000 an offer to most of the race winners. That's tremendous cash. And as a result, they got some really fine displays. It's very important, as I keep saying, sense of occasion on these big nights.
Yeah, it is. And as I said at the start of the show, it's not going on this long, this competition, and it's prize money wise, it's certainly the highlight of the year down there, isn't it? I know they have the Ledger down there as well, but yeah, there was some top class runners down there, well supported by all the top trainers. And look, once again, we got a cracking final, and it just goes to show the quality of the winners we've had over the last few years. So it shows how well it is supported, and all of these dogs that make it to the Kirby, they all seem to go on to bigger and better things. And we mentioned the dogs as well that were knocked out in the earlier round. So look, we'll be talking at the end of this year about this dog, and we'll be mentioning started off on the Kirby, made it to the third round of the Kirby, and it's where the best puppies, and they're not really puppies, but it's where the best young dogs in the country are at the moment. So yeah, it always throws up a nice one or two in.
Yeah, speaking of a nice one or two, we move on from Limerick. We're going to head to Waterford next because one of our favourites, Seven Beach, was back in winning ways again, having won the Tokyo Cup at Shelbourne Park in February. He's now after winning another big race, or after claiming another big race success for Jennifer Donnell and the Beach Boys trio. Seven Beach, 28-44 in the final of the Droopy Stud Select Stakes. Some good racing at Waterford on Saturday night. But as you'd expect, the big one was the fastest run of the night, and it came from Seven Beach. Perhaps not as how would you describe it? As impressive, perhaps, or swashbuckling as it was, perhaps, in the semi-final. But there was nothing wrong with his 28-44 run. In good company, he showed fine early speed, got the corner, and that was that. He went on to justify 1-2 favoritism in good style. He's just a thoroughly likeable greyhound.
He is. We spoke about it last week, myself and Tommy, about his CV. Like a two-time Derby semi-finalist. What did he win at the start of the year? The Caul Cup. And when he made it to the Derby semi-final last year, or the year before last, sorry, he was a raw puppy going into it there, you know, and he's just been like, what a dog he's been to own. Again, another huge race success. As Jennifer mentioned, I didn't realise he's only a 68-pound dog. He's not a big dog by any stretch of the imagination anymore. 68 pound is quite small now for a dog, but she mentioned in her interview, I think it was with Barry Drake after the race, that he's got the heart of a lion. And look, she said time is not with him, I suppose. He's heading towards his fourth birthday, but he doesn't need to do much more for them, does he? He's been an absolute star again, so professional. Out and gone again this week, and one sort of road exile didn't take a flyer, and he got to the front. It was sort of game over. Like he's strong enough out in front, and look, I know Bocco's Diamond was beat at the weekend, but he was the dog that gave him his last big fright, wasn't he, in Shelbourne Park in the final of the time Greyhound Nutrition 550. That was an absolutely thrilling race. So that even that night showed how good he was. And yeah, look, what are they going to do with him now? Maybe like the Champion Stakes can be hard enough to get into, but he will certainly get his place in the Champion Stakes. And then why not have another crack at the Derby? He's been a magnificent dog for them. As I say, he doesn't need to do much more. And it was a good field as well. Barefoot on Song, like she's a cracking bitch, as too is Glengar Marta. Down to Business is such a versatile performer for Bernard and Road Exile. Like he's a star over 2 and 4 bends. And then we haven't even mentioned the runner up, Shamahi Boomer. Like really, really top class competition. Fair play to Droopy Stud for sponsoring it. But yeah, Seven Beach, he's a real star, isn't he?
Yeah, interesting. They weren't afraid to travel with him a bit last year. Obviously, Kilkenny wouldn't be too far up the road from them. He ran there a couple of times. He also finished second in the Tipperary Cup, and who knows, that's the sort of competition he could rock up in. But you know, he's very much a confirmed top class racer nowadays. And as you said, you mentioned the Champion Stakes there. It's a big purse for 2 runs. Could be ideal for a dog of this type. Just going
Exactly.
on to he's coming into veteran status at that stage, and who's to say he couldn't, finish off in style in the Champions Stakes. Yes, give him a
So
crack in the Derby. You never know.
we'll go Champion Stakes. We'll win that. We'll go to the Derby again, and then I think will he be a veteran for the Winter Racing Festival? He could well be. Imagine having a genuine veteran. This guy rocks up. You're going, here,
Oh, yeah,
two-time
yeah.
Derby
It's in
semi-final.
September. Yeah,
You know?
September. I know
Yeah,
what you
so
mean. The veteran
so
race.
he,
Was there a veteran race last year?
I think, but you see, you forget there's a veterans race because something like Seven Beach will win it, and you just automatically think, but that wasn't a veterans race. That was an open 525 or 550. But yeah, look, there could be a nice plan for him. But as I say, if they were to pull the plug with him now, which they won't because he's in the form of his life, he owes everybody nothing. So a real star, Seven Beach, and a great 6 weeks or so for
A
John
son
and
of
Jennifer.
son
So
of
well done to them.
Pastana out of Whiting's gift, who goes back through to Mount Taylor, Queen Skywalker, Queen Nifty Princess, Nifty Neve, of course. So very, very well bred and great damn line. But Pastana, he's a typical Pastana in far as my mind. They do take a little while to mature, but but they are worth keep going. Like stay patient with them.
Persevering with, yeah,
Penny
yeah,
does
yeah.
drop. You know what I mean? That's what I like about them. The fact that they don't come to the track ready. They need that few races to find themselves and whatnot. And well, this fellow's just got better and better and better through his career, and a wonderful winner. Now we're off to Shelbourne Park, Barry, because you were on duty there, and we saw some wonderful racing. I think we'll start with the Puppy Oaks. Both heat winners impressed. The first heat went to Ballymac Mint, and while it was only 28.82, yes, it was rated 20 slow. Conservatively, I thought rated 20 slow. I think it could have gone 30 or 40. But you have to like the way this lady ran. She didn't take a flyer. She showed tremendous early speed up the outside of the track. She put it to bed very quickly and coasted home to win a 2:15 sectional, 28.82 minus the 28.62. Like, it'd be no surprise to me next week on a good track if she did 28.20. And I think she's very much a lady, on an upward curve, one that'll be a star in the future, I think.
Yeah, look, they done well to get racing on at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. Obviously, we know we lost Friday night, and the rain didn't really relent here all day. Like, I'm not too far from the track line, maybe 25 minutes from Shelbourne Park, and it was raining all day. And I thought maybe at 3 o'clock it could be touch and go. But when I got there, the track, yeah, look, it was safe, raceable, but it was far from top of the ground, like what you call really, really light and quick ground. And yeah, the 20 was definitely conservative. I'd say at a minimum 30. But I ain't the racing manager. But Ballymac Mint, yeah, very impressive. As you say, you said it all there. She didn't start great, but it was her pace from the 5:25 finish line, as you know where we are, the commentary box into the bend. It was really eye catching. Flew into the corner and was never in doubt. A little bit messy in behind. Pom Pom, I suppose, was done no favours up the inside for Owen McKenna. Neither was Crafty Tally Ho. A few of them met trouble. Braveheart Bambi had her card held. Strange one. She looked to be doing everything right. She just had a little pop on the line, and then going into the escape, she flew past the winner. You know, you're
Yeah,
thinking
there
if
was
she
no.
had,
I
yeah,
noticed that as well. It's the real puppyish one, wasn't it?
frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
because
real frustrating one.
I really like this one. I mean,
Yeah,
I really
me
liked her in the
too.
previous
Yeah,
2 or 3 starts. She goes back like Ambi Bambi or Dam is Coolavani Pet. So like it's an
yeah.
unbelievable dam line, you know what I mean? And she's a member of a very fast litter. She is like, you know, I don't know what you do.
You
You go
wouldn't give
back to
up
the
on her. You
drawing board
certainly
with
wouldn't
her.
give up on her just yet. You wouldn't give
No,
up on
but even then, she's worth the fortune that stud. You know what I mean? As a brood
her.
bitch, like
Yeah.
she's very fast. But I certainly wouldn't give it up on her. Was it one trial?
It was two, unfortunately.
2 trials, okay.
Yeah.
Scarlett Ella finished third. Again, she's one that's progressing all the while, and it didn't happen for the other trio. But Ballymacmint was far and away the one to take out of the race. Just very impressive. Second semi-final, I suppose it was rather predictable. I think we could have all read this race how it was going to go. Mina Minsk absolutely rocketed to the corner. She's going. I'll tell you what, Barry. I know, like this could be her second. This probably was her second last start in Ireland. Um, my God, she's going to win some. She's going to win some races in the UK. Like, imagine
Yeah,
those tracks over there. They're just made for her. She is so professional. She has so much early speed. There's so much to like about her. Oh wow. Anyway, she showed her tremendous early speed once again. She's only taken sort of like it looked like the bitch was going to go by her. She'd be the one on the third bend, but it took her all the way to the last bend to get by her. She goes on to win by 2.5 lengths. She be the one. She is very fast. She's very very strong indeed. Of course, she's I'm right in saying she's a half sister to Seven Beach.
yeah.
Uh,
Whiting's gift. Yeah,
yeah. Where am I? Am I right?
you're at home. You should be.
Yeah, I should be at home. Uh, am I right? Sorry, go back to that
Tristana
one.
Whiting's gift. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, that's Seven Beach. Tristana Whiting's gift.
Yeah, and obviously she's bred in the purple. Like she's very closely related to the two Derby winners, Kobe and Born Warrior. And she really is running strong. I made a mention of her a couple of times, sprinting nearly around the Kirby with Tommy, that I thought she probably lacked the yard into the opening corner. And it probably not as prevalent when she's in her own company, when she's in against bitches. Now, as it is, she's looked sharper in Shelbourne Park. So, she led comfortably last week. And on Saturday night, it was only the Mina bitch or Mina Minska that got first run on her. But she's almighty strong, isn't she? Like she charged into that third bend. She goes to the front off the last bend and pulls away to win by 2.5 lengths. She's by Ballymac Wild, who of course was a Shelbourne Open
Yeah.
600 winner himself. My God, she's given some fun to her owners.
Yeah, she's been exceptional the last couple of weeks. She was very, very well supported last week, so they must have known they had her right. She was pretty short in the ring, I thought, last week, but she made no mistake. And again, once she tracked around Mina Minsk, you knew the writing was on the wall at halfway. But yeah, just to touch on Mina Minsk, as a commentator, you're just dying to say as the hare's approaching traps, expect the early pace to come from trap six. But the night you say that, she's going to completely miss it.
And
But
you
she just won't.
and you'll be blamed then.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So you never say that, but she's so consistent at traps. And in fairness to Mina Mintz, I noticed that maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago, a bitch of Graham Hollands would have been an Ardea bitch or something, flew past her into the third bend, and it looked like she was going to go on and win by maybe 5 or 6. And she only went on by one or two. Like you have this thing in your head about Mina Mintz that she's a blitz early pacer, which she is. But when she comes off the last bend, she plugs on a bit again. She's not just an out and out sprinter, but yeah, she'd be the one, as you say, bred in the purple, flying time 28:49 on that track. I think it was near enough the fastest. It was at that stage anyway. Ballymac Riddle ran well back in third place. No look for Magical on Fire. I know Pat sort of likes this bitch, but no look for her neither too. Borges Hazel, it hasn't really happened for her up in Shelbourne Park, but yeah, she be the one at the moment. She looks like she is the one, Ian.
Yeah, she is. These are the sort of bitches, the ones that finished out of the frame that will come back in about 3 years' time and realize, oh God, she
Yeah,
ran that puppy Oaks and now she's the dam of the Derby favourite. One of them. They're all
yeah,
so
yeah,
well bred. These competitions you don't see a badly. Like there's there's scarcely any bad breeding in the country at this stage anyway. But like there's so many well-bred bitches going around. Like you just look at the standard of the dams. Like you know, Droopy's Dargall. I remember her, Ballymac Ariel, Mina Miracle, a Derby runner-up. Whiting's Gift was a bit of a star, but had a likely enough race. Jetstream Links is obviously the dam of Susie Sapphire. Crafty Kokoro, a classic winner. Ballymac Trudy. Like they're just all so fast themselves.
It, it's funny you say that because I was commentating and the dogs are going through parade. So for the first semi final, I was going Pom Pom, a well-bred daughter of Droopy Sydney and Jetstream Links, an incredible pedigree. And then you look at Trap Two and she's out Crafty Kokoro, and you're sort of going, I can't keep on saying incredible pedigree. And then you get the Ballymac Mint, your Ballymac Ariel, and you're right what you say, because they're all top
Yeah.
class pedigrees.
It's
You
like
know,
when I
so
get to the farm guide, you know, well-bred bitch. Right, grand. Next one. Oh, another with a fine pedigree. Third one. Oh,
Brenda
bred to be
Purple.
fast. Fourth one. Yet another with an unbelievable family. And like it's just you're finding a way to rewrite
I
it
know, yeah.
way down, you know. Yeah, no, a very, very good puppy Oaks. I suppose She Be the One has been rewarded for her efforts. She's been given trap one in the final. Not necessarily a brilliant draw, but if she traps on terms, all of a sudden it is a brilliant draw, and she is a pretty hot favourite, and I think deservedly so.
Yeah, she's been electric the last 2 weeks, and yeah, trap one. Sometimes it's easier to break from the middle, but look, if she can come out and hold her position to the bend, I think she's strong, isn't she? And look, Ballymac Mint was very good to the eye last week. I haven't seen her do it, but I just get the feeling she can come out a lot quicker.
Mm.
Yeah, it could be between the two, but like you can't rule out Mina Minsk. If she keeps doing that, she's going to go around in front, and if there's any bit of trouble in behind her, it's cracking final, a great one to look forward to. It really is.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now on to the 600, and let's start at the start. Kaleshal Ranger Vincent Lynch always has a decent type around him, and this Kaleshal Ranger, he's one of those dogs where he's not been prolific, but he pops up when he can and when things go his way. He won three in a row recently at Mullingar. Prior to that, he'd had sort of one win from about 15 or 20 starts in his previous starts, but he's one of those dogs, like he's won over two bends, he's won over a sharp four bends, he's now won over 600 yards. He's just a thoroughly likable, versatile sort. It was the weakest of the three heats, but he didn't know that, and he popped out and made every inch of the running to win comfortably by 2 lengths in 33.07.
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually had a few quid in Killishall Ranger because, as you know, I do Mullingar the odd time and I follow the form half closely. And he's won three good races down there, and he's won them in good style. He's been quite impressive. But now, when I say I backed him, I said to myself, I'll do the trio with him because the trio could pay well. So I was calling out to
Is
the
this the one you
dividend.
text me?
Yeah, the forecast paid 220 and the trio paid 170. I was like, oh no. When you see the forecast paid 220, you're going, oh, here we go, telephone numbers. And then, oh no. It was easier. It paid more to get the first two than the first three. But yeah, he's a likable dog. He's always well capable of popping out. And I just thought on the night, he represented a bit of value, or so I thought. But yeah, he's a likable sort for Vincent Lynch. Glenlara Blue finished in second place. He's Mr. Consistent really around Shelbourne Park. And again, he falls into that bracket that he's just not quite in the top tier, but he's very, very good. Faypoint Angry, good weekend for the Flanagans. He ran well back in third place. He'll be in the semi-finals, as to a costly lesson for Barry Clancy. But yeah, Killshill Ranger, you wouldn't necessarily be backing him to back it up again next week. But yeah, he's a thoroughly likable sort. Vincent Lynch a good night there, and yeah, good winner. As I say, look, you don't really. It was the weakest of the three heats, and you'd be surprised if the winner was to come from it.
Yeah. Costly Lesson was bought for a song. Am I right in saying that?
He was bought for a song. Mr. Clancy's not too bad in buying them dogs and sort of turning them into improving them, shall we say? But yeah, he's won a couple now for Barry around there, and yeah, he's a strong running dog, isn't he? And he's capable of popping out as well. He's popped out in one of those good 5.25s in Shelbourne there recently, and yeah, he's the pace to win over 5.25, and he stays well too.
He just shaved a pound or two off him. He's only 86 pounds now, Barry.
That's all. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
I suppose
Yeah.
I suppose you get him for a song because you have to feed him. You have to feed him.
We'll touch on the big boy before we wrap up here. Sober secret. Imagine feeding him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a couple more to come. Like Ballinabola Jim isn't too small either.
That's true.
Go
Yeah,
on to
yeah.
the second heat, and here we saw Callaway Kinnegare at 4 to 5. I told you that I bumped into the two Murphys in Monasterevin as I was chomping over a burger. I hope I didn't have mayonnaise in my face as I was chatting to them, but
I've
they
seen that.
they're of the same opinion of me. He's just not quite firing at present, Callaway Kinnegar. It's clear that the engine's still there and he still ran strongly to grab second spot, but just the same sort of spark isn't there that we saw last year's Juvenile Derby. We know he had one or two issues. I think he had tonsil problems during the Derby, but here we are, and he's after having two runs over 600 yards, he won last time out. He struggled in second spot on Saturday night. There's so much better to come from him. But Air Flyer, who had run against four of these rivals in his previous outing, finishing last of the five, and he pops out, wins at 8-1 for Eugene and Rosemary Price, who you mentioned someone else having a unbelievable couple of months. Jennifer O'Donnell. Well, I'll tell you what. Rosemary and Eugene are sending out winners left, right, and centre. They've had an unbelievable start to the year.
Yeah, they were flying. Eugene was in great form by all accounts in there on Saturday night. Well
Always
done to
is.
him. He always is, yeah, but he was in exceptional form on Saturday night. But yeah, certainly one for the bookmakers. He took a flyer from trap four, no pun intended. Took a flyer from trap four, and I think he was just briefly headed around the bottom bends and came again. But yeah, Callaway Kinnegar, I was a little bit disappointed with him when he won a couple of weeks back. He just held off the crafty Bondi bitch. I think he might have been singing along Molly back in second, was it? I thought when he hit the front of the third bend, he'd go on and win well. But look, it's a decent caliber of dog he's running against. Yeah, he's not the same dog he was as maybe in the third round or quarter final of the Derby gone back last year. He hasn't returned in the same form. But what's he had now back? Maybe 4 or 5 runs. You'd be expecting him now to be at his sharpest. And yeah, look, he's still there. He's still there. If he took a flyer next week in the semi final and led around the opening bend, we could just see him back, and we could just say, just put it down to a bit of rustiness. He might take a while to come back, but look, it's very hard to get these dogs to come back, no matter what the grade is. And you see some of these dogs that win derbies and people give them breaks and come back. Sometimes they just don't come back in that same form, and maybe that's just the case with Callaway Kinnegar, but maybe it's just a week or two too soon to write him off. We'll give him another go next week, but yeah, he has been a little bit disappointed. Sing Along Molly runs our usual game race to qualify back into our that's due to Timmy's books. No look for Crafty Bondi or the ultra consistent Velvet Jenny. She's a great bitch to own, like 4 bends, 6 bends, real star. But yeah, it was Air Flyer, decent time, 32.86, and look, takes another flyer like that again next week. He could see himself in the final.
Yeah, I think Callaway. I think we will see the best of him. I still think he deserves to be favoured to win the competition. Just going on his whole body of work, and he has those 2 or 3 runs behind him, and you never know. One fast start, and it could be all behind him. He does a very kind draw in the semi-finals, has to be said. So he has his opportunity. He's on the right side of Timmy's books on this occasion,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
could allow him maybe slip around in front. And if doing so, we could see a completely different greyhound. Sing Along Molly ran very strong in third. The aforementioned Timmy's book showed loads of pace into the third bend. Actually, briefly hit the front, but just couldn't hold on. He's back in fourth spot. Ran very, very well indeed. Didn't happen for Crafty Bondi or Velvet Jenny. Two talented ladies. We'll see more of them later in the year. And so to the last of the 3 heats, Barry, and to steal your line, Jack Tavern went boom. He flashed out, absolutely flew out Jack Tavern boom. But much like many of the litter, he just does lack a yard into the opening corner. In contrast, Balnabola Jim absolutely rocketed into the bend, all 90 pounds of him. It was great to see it. You worry about a dog that's coming back from an injury like he had. I think it was Grassless, that maybe, he might pull up on the corner or something in his first run back, first doing real speed work. As it was, he ran very hard to the third bend. I wasn't aware of the rest of the clocks at this stage. I was down in Limerick, and when I heard you calling out 32.92, I was very disappointed. And then you look back on the results afterwards and go, now it makes sense. Jack Tavern Boom absolutely flew home to win by 2.5 lengths. Ballyhooly Bruno, having missed the kick, found traffic off the second bend when Jack Tavern moved off. I thought he ran a big race in second spot. And again, the aforementioned Balnabola Jim, he's only beaten 2.5 lengths in a short head. I would say Brendan Murphy floated home on Saturday night.
Yeah, he would have been absolutely thrilled with the run. As you say, it is hard to get them back after an injury, and especially a dog with 90 pounds to carry. A great training performance for Brendan to get him back. And he really should have been a Derby finalist, shouldn't he? He really should have been. He
Yeah,
was in
but
such a
this
good
is what you
position.
forget. Like, this is a dog
Yeah,
who was effectively in the Derby final, only
yeah.
for cruel fate. But like, he's 29.06 for 550 yards. Like, that's how talented
Yeah.
this greyhound is.
And we're giving Callaway Kinnegar this big build up because he was the Derby tour, but it could so easily have been Balnabola Jim, and we're sort of half forgetting about him. But yeah, look, I'm sure Brendan's absolutely thrilled. He roared into the fourth bend and ran a huge race down into the third bend. And as I said in commentary, how's his fitness? And just wasn't quite there as you would expect. He hasn't ran since early January.
Mm.
But look, I'm sure he's delighted with him. Ballyhooly Bruno, yeah, a bit of an eye catcher back in second place, missed the break. I thought he was very good last week
Yeah.
out of trap one, where he missed the break as well and showed great early pace up the inside and really brave and stayed on strongly. I certainly wouldn't write him off. Jack Tavern Boom took a flyer. Yeah, lacked the yard of early pace, but yeah, look, I was speaking to Noel after the race, and Noel thinks his future will lie over even further. And I got home on Saturday night and I had a look at the replay and I text Noel and I said, I don't mean to put the dog down, but my God, what's he going to be like when he steps up to sixpence? Because if you watch him into the escape, like Ballyhooly Bruno is no slouch and he stays strongly. But if you watch Jack Tavern Bruno into the escape, I think he's gone 7, 8, 9 lengths clear. He really is. It's really impressive. As I said to Noel, I don't mean to pigeonhole him already, say he's six bends because he's still got a huge future over four bends, but he could be anything when he steps up. And the thing that I like about him is, Ian, he has that ability to trap. And you know in them 750s, if you can trap like that, all of a sudden you're in front of the first bend. And that's a huge asset to have over six bends in Shelbourne Park. But I think the winner of the stake will come from this race. I really do. I think the world is his oyster, Ballinabolagen. He can step forward any amount on that run. He really can. Ballyhooly Bruno, I thought left maybe a good 4 or 5 lengths on the track. And Jack Tavern Boom, it's still only his sixth race. He's still only a baby. He's got trap one there Saturday night. The lads are just looking, hoping he qualifies, and I'm sure he's got a good chance of qualifying from the red jacket. But yeah, I think the winner of the stake will come from this race.
I agree with everything you say about Jack Tavern Boom. Absolutely everything. You couldn't have picked a more sort of carbonated copy of what a stayer looks like. That
Yeah.
flashing start, gets outpaced the long run to the corner, but holds his own down the back straight and absolutely thrusts home. He looks he looks certain. He looks certainly already like a 41-10 dog, 750 yards at Shelbourne Park. And who's to say can't go even faster? And only a handful of greyhounds have ever gone faster than that. And that's
Mm.
where I'd already have him. I think he could be an absolute superstar over 750 yards. And I really I know some people are not keen to put them over the trip early. Noel Byrne knows what a stayer needs to be. Noel has had his hands on some great stayers over the years, and I'm absolutely certain he already has his cohorts convinced that the Corn Cuchulainn will be the right route for him. And all those bitches we mentioned earlier on, they're going to need to be on their toes because if Jack Devon Boom turns up, all of a sudden they've got a serious rival.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cracking Corn Cuchulainn if he turns up there. It's already going to be a cracking one, but Jack Tavern Boom, I haven't been this excited about one going over six bends in a long time. I think he just is absolutely made for it. Ballyhooly Bruno, I agree with everything you said there. I just like to see him trapping a bit better. If he does
Mm.
trap better, I think he has the speed to make a big splash in this competition. Ballinabole Jim, what needs to be said about him? He's just a star. Clonfert Annie was back and forth. She's so strong. She ran very well in her previous outing. She did 32:41, I think, for the 600 at Shelbourne Park. She's not just one you can sleep on. She's always capable, very talented. Cracking competition, Barry. It wasn't overly strong at the start, but all of a sudden you could be left with a great final six if things go right on Saturday night.
Yeah, just to mention Clonfert Annie, you see she's going off at 6-1. It shows what sort of a contest she was in there on Saturday night. Really hot one. But yeah, still a lot of water to go under the bridge in this competition. I know we've only got the 2 rounds left, but look, can we see Callaway Kinnegar get back to something like his best? It's going to be really interesting to see how Jim steps forward from last week's run. If Bruno can take the flyer, he could do a sub 30 run. And look, as I say, Jack Tavern Boom, although we're pigeonholing him over 750 already, you still got to remember he's only had the 6 or 7 starts and he could be anything. So yeah, 2 cracking semi-finals to look forward to this Saturday night, as well as the final of the Puppy Oak. So good action there on Saturday. And the main man is back in the hot seat. What more is there not to like?
Who?
Me, I'm back again next week.
You mentioned a couple of big ones. There were a couple of big ones. Won the last two races. Skid Row Joe in his first outing since winning the Dublin Cup. Good to see Dublin Cup graduates winning in AAO company. He's a nice dog. He's loads of boot down the back straight. I thought he tied up a little bit. I thought he'd come on for the run. And Sober Secret winning in 28:68. Skid Row Joe at 85 pounds is a lightweight compared to Sober Secret at 93. What a monster he is. But he's a sharp monster, isn't he? Like he's a remarkable. He's so sharp. He's like a little ballerina skipping around.
He's actually getting better. He's actually
Mm.
getting better. I went down to give Ted Hegarty his video after racing, and Ted said I couldn't see him winning. He says I couldn't see him winning. I didn't think he'd have the early, and I said I didn't think he'd win myself now because there was a bit of early on his inside. But I think he's getting better. He really is. He showed great early pace into the bend there and held off a real top class dog in Cushy the best. 93 pound. I've stood beside him a couple of times. He's an absolute monster. He is a monster.
Yeah.
And I keep on saying
Sometimes you see a 93 pounder and you think, God, he doesn't look it.
oh,
He
but when you
looks it.
stand beside him, he
And
looks it. Yeah.
I think it's his colouring as well now, to be honest. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. I keep on saying to Carol, you should be charging Sean Malone double for that. He said, I keep on saying it to him, but he won't pay me. He just pays me for a regular dog. But 93 pound, yeah. I think Carol's daughter was at the pickup to pick him up, and I didn't quite see it, but somebody said I think she's 10 or 11 maybe, but she's like she's bringing in a horse. You know, he's a huge dog.
Of course, there was a double on the night for Carl, who had also won earlier in the card with Check for Cash. He's just a good, solid running greyhound. You could sort of set your clock by him. Hive Aurora, good winner of the opener. Droopy's Bro, good to see him back to some form. He won the happy birthday to Barry Caul Open 525. Who is this sham we speak of, Barry Caul? What is it, 50?
No, and everybody kept on. I actually had to show Darren my license in there on Saturday night. I said, "What? I'm 43." He said, "You're not 43," and I had my license ready. And he says, "Why did you have it ready?" Because it was a hard paper round I had. But yeah, everybody when I gave them my age, they were like, "No, you're not. There's the license. There's the license. There's like trying to get into a nightclub." But I didn't have that problem trying to get into a nightclub since I was about 14. So you have to take the rough with the smooth, you know.
It is what it is. And there was a 750-yard contest. Derby's Dancer had been a big eye catcher in well many of her previous starts, but in her previous start to this was a real eye catcher. Flew home, and she made a good start to her. Not a start. She has run over 754, but this was a much improved 750-yard display. 42.48, rated 40 slow. You could rate it 60, 70 slow as far as I'm concerned. Just a nice start. I'd love to see her getting loose early and see how she runs because she does stay that bit wider when there's dogs on her inside. I'd say she can go even faster.
Yeah, the lads like her, the Devonies. And she, as you said, she ran well last week in 5.25. She was fourth, and she was must have been 4 or 5 lengths clear into the pickup. I think she's had one or two runs over this trip before, and I think she might have actually clocked maybe a 41.05 or 41.10 in defeat going back a while ago. So she had the form in the book. I think they ran her down in the Kirby. Things didn't go quite her way, but yeah, good to see her back to win away. She had to do a lot of running to get to the front. I think she only hit the front of the fifth bend and stayed on well. So it was a good night for the locals in there because the two tables near where I'd sit, you'd have the Devonies and the Pillar Syndicate sitting on one. They had a double, and just down about 20 yards, you had Carol Ramsbottom and Eugene, and they had a double and a single. So good night for the locals in there.
Yeah, Leishman and the Kildare man you just mentioned, you know
Ah,
that.
yeah, but you know, they always run their dogs up there.
Shelbourne regulars, shall we say.
Shelbourne regulars, that's what we'll
And
call
what you
them.
meant to say was that Derby's Dancer had a 42.01, not a 41.0.
42.01,
42.01
apologies.
in defeat.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
was on her
sorry.
six bend debut. She ran into a dog called Mongy's Wild. He hasn't turned into a
That's right.
bad one. TV trophy
That's
winner
right.
in England,
TV
of course,
trophy
and
winner. Yeah,
a
yeah.
brother to Banter Buzz, or what's he called now, Callaway Hybrid, who we mentioned.
Callaway Hybrid, yeah.
Nothing else to mention in Ireland, Barry, before we move on.
In Ireland, no, I don't think so. I think we're heading straight over the waters.
Yeah, obviously a big run by Hello Diego, a wonderful winner of the Maiden Derby at Toaster for Paul Hennessy, a second win in 2 years, having won last year with JT Etienne. He's sort of he's one of those dogs where he makes you look like a genius. You always say to people, "Oh yeah, he'll fly up, he'll dispute it, he'll lose his picture on the first two bends and then run on like a train." It's carbon copy of what he always does. That's exactly what he did the other night. Picked up Ballybock Nuts, of course, a former Murtlahy trained inmate, a dog with plenty of early speed, but just doesn't quite see it out. Hello Diego certainly does, and Hello Diego came through to land the spoils in the closing yards, beating Ballybock Nuts. Lenny's Desire came through for third. I think the rails is too tight for him. I think I'd sooner him in the middle. I think I'd take a chance in the middle seat with him.
Yeah, I don't know. Toaster just confuses me sometimes. It really does. Like when dogs miss the break in any Irish track, Shelbourne Park, be it Limerick, when dogs miss the break, they might miss it by a length or two. But my God, when they miss it in Toaster, they
Yeah,
absolutely miss it. They miss it by miles. He ran all over the track. He was inside, he was outside, he was inside, he was outside, and he's beaten what? Is he beaten 3 lengths, 2.5 lengths, three
yeah.
lengths? He showed some and went past some good dogs in that final as well. I know it was the maiden derby in all but name, but yeah, look, he's can you back a Lenny's Desire to go through a competition with 6 rounds, knowing that he has that break in him? But look, hopefully the runs will get him acclimatized to the place. But yeah, hello Diego. I think he was a finalist in the National
Juvenile
Puppy Stake
Derby.
behind
No,
Juvenile behind Callaway
Juvenile Derby, yeah. Mm,
Callaway Kinnegar, was that it? He was in
yeah.
that race, and so he's got plenty of class. And Ballybock Nuts, as you say, he won plenty around Shelbourne Park. So it was For maiden in name, it was a high quality contest. Ballybuck Nuts ran his heart out, but hello Diego, yeah, he's a nice sort. But if you were to take one out with to go forward for the Derby, you'd have to take out Lenny Cesar.
Yeah. I went, excuse the pun, I went bald headed for Bocco's Diamond in the
Come on, man.
Juvenile Championship. Um, I was afraid to go on X afterwards, but it was all, in fairness, I think people realised that it was a big run in defeat by him. He was the last dog to hit the ground running in the Time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Championship. Missed the kick completely, charged up into the opening corner, but you have to give him proper air as a start. And while he challenges proper air off the second bend, which is pretty remarkable when you consider the start he made, you knew that the lack of a run, like it is November since he last raced, and it did show. He tied up coming home. He's ended up picked up for second, finishes third. But I thought it was a bright run by Baco's Diamond, but also a bit of an eye-catching run by the winner. And I think we do have to show him some respect going forward. Many will believe he's the big threat to Baco's Diamond in the English Derby. I think Baco's Diamond is the only threat to himself, really, in the English Derby. If he finds his trapping boots, he did a 4:08 the other night. He has done a 3:93 in a trial. So I think that goes to show how badly he did miss the kick. Hopefully, that's the last we'll see of that start.
Yeah, look, far away will win you most races around there, in fairness. But yeah, proper air race. It was a proper race. Let's be honest. There was
Mm.
some high class dogs in it. Like I think Boyle Sports Blue went off 25 or 33 to one, didn't he? Like something ridiculous, and he's a high class greyhound. But it's just that toaster track. If you get one of those dogs from the middle to go boom, it's going to be very, very hard to get around them and come from behind. I didn't see what the time was. I presume it was a 28:50, 28:60 run, was it?
I think it was 62.
Yeah, it's something like that. So it's very, very hard to come from behind on a track like Toaster because I think for nearly 50% of it, you're on the turn. And especially if you're on the outside, like Bacchus Diamond is trying to go around the outside of proper hair rest and make ground. And then into the third bend, he challenges again and he's trying to go around the outside and again, giving away more ground. And as you say, the lack of a run, it didn't help his cause. But look, I'm sure Graham Holland knows what he's doing. He seems to give his dogs plenty of time to acclimatise to the place over there. And he'll certainly step forward from the run. But yeah, proper air rest. Look, if they raced again next week, I'm sure the betting would still be much the same. I don't think proper areas would shorten any much, or you wouldn't have Bucko's Diamond drifting because he was beat last week. I think that toaster track is just all on the break. Any one of those middle three could have went bang, and it could have been a different story. But Bucko's Diamond will get there. I know you said it was 10 to 11 was a gift from the bookmaking gods, and you were very quiet on X on Sunday evening. But don't worry, buddy, you'll get them back.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't you worry, Barry. If you're wrong once, keep going. Go more the other way. Go more the other way.
Double down, double down.
We're double down. We're doubling down here, baby. Don't you worry. You'll be hearing me. I'll be very bullish going forward. I spoke to Graham on Saturday night at Limerick, and you could sense from him. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's nice to be involved in the race tomorrow." But you could sense that there was only one target for him, and he was far from fully tuned up for it. So no, I thought it was a fine run by Bacchus Diamond. We're going to mention your pal winning on the undercard, Yorkie Ollie. Back, he really has
Yeah,
taken the toaster, Barry. He absolutely hammers home there. He's showing good speed into the opening corner. I think he just likes the dimensions of the place. He's not. I find in Shelbourne he's worried about dogs around him. A toaster, he's looked sort of more comfortable in his surroundings. And Cheap Sandwiches, of course, the Derby runner-up. He's quietly, because there's been so much talk about Bocco's
yeah.
Diamond and this juvenile and the maiden derbies going on, he's sneaking under the radar. Two or three very impressive trials. Big run the other evening. Just is a big, big player in this English Derby, though.
Yeah, the two of them have massive, massive engines. Just to touch on Yorkie Ollie, like what did he win on debut? 28:10, something silly like that, and he
Yeah, absolutely
qualified.
silly like that,
He
yeah.
qualified something silly like that. But look, he has all the pace in the world. He just lacked a bit of track craft around Shelbourne Park the last time he had a race at his mercy, and just if there was trouble to be found, he'd find it. And dogs can have an affiliation with a track like that. It might be in their head. So look, clean slate, clean slate, fresh start over in Toaster. And as you say, he seems to be in enjoying it. And you're exactly right what you say about Cheap Sandwiches. He's really gone under the radar because there's been so much focus on his kennel companion. Yeah, a Derby runner up, and there's no real talk about him.
Yeah. Mad stuff, mad stuff. I think the Irish are going to be there with a fair chance. We've had nothing but domination over the last few years, so let's hope for more of the same. Of course, the English do have a much stronger team this year than they have
Yeah,
done probably in a few years, so it'd be interesting to see how it goes. But Bacchus Diamond remains a very deserving favourite, but don't sleep on the likes of Cheap Sandwiches. Boyle Sports Bob will be there again, his second last year. The laddie da will be back to defend his title. There'll be so many other talented greyhounds knocking about from these short stores. So it's going to be an enthralling few weeks. It all kicks off sort of the second week of May, I believe it is. Just into second week. I think it's the 8th, 9th, 10th it starts. But thanks, Barry. I think that's everything covered for this weekend. We're going on to. Well, we're going to see a wonderful final to the Puppy Oaks on Saturday night at Shelbourne Park. We have the semi-finals of the Shelbourne Open 600. There's plenty more kicking off in the near future, so it's going to be another few busy weeks looking ahead. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yeah, as you say, cracking action coming up. I think the Island Bridge Sprint will start shortly, and then the Cork Cullen will start in May as well, is it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
starting up
So,
shortly. No, that's right. That's it. So that's it from Talking Dogs this Monday or this Tuesday, shall we
Tuesday.
say? We hope you've had a great Easter weekend. We only have 3 days before Friday, so it's all of a sudden we're another weekend is upon us. More top class racing to look forward to. The pups continue to shine. We're hearing great reports about dogs that will be going to Kilkenny. So there's still a few more superstars to emerge in the few weeks coming up. But that's it from us here on Talking Dogs this Tuesday. My thanks again to Barry Caul and his wonderful shirt. We welcome him back any time. But that's it. Remember to check out Barry Drake on Thursday. He spoke to Aoife Dunphy last week, got a great insight into the Droopy Stud Select Stakes. Don't know who will be talking to this week, but no doubt could be somebody that's made headlines over the past weekend. And of course, make sure to like and subscribe. That's all important to get this out a bit more, to get Greyhound Racing out a bit more. The more likes and subscribes we can get, the better it is for us and indeed for Greyhound Racing. But that's it for us on this Tuesday. We'll see you 6 days from now. Best of luck, good evening, and good luck.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.